So today we're going to learn about using shortcuts. So I can use shortcuts to multiply binomials. So previously we're in 7.3 we learned how to multiply binomials using FOIL, right, where we take the first, outer, inner, last and add them all up. But today we're going to talk about there are shorter methods we can use, but these only work when multiplying similar pairs of binomials, and that's what we're going to talk about here today. It should say shortcuts. Okay, so for example, if I have an a plus b, right, times a minus b, that is going to be equal to a squared minus b squared. What is an example of this? So for example, if I have x plus 3 times x minus 3, usually I would use FOIL, right? So I would take the first, I get x squared, outer, negative 3x, inner, plus 3x in my last terms, which is negative 9, and you get x squared minus 9 because these cancel out. A shorter way of using this now is just all you have to do is do x squared minus 9. So you don't have to use FOIL every single time, and that'll work. So you square the first term and you square this last term and you add a subtraction sign in the middle. This only works if you have an a plus b times an a minus b. This will always work. So for example, as you notice, I have an x plus 7 and an x minus 7. In this case, I'm able to use the shortcut because I have 1 plus, 1 minus of the same number, same variable. So this is going to be x squared minus 49. So the first term you square, well, x squared is x squared, and 7 squared is 49. So this is the shortcut we're talking about. So if you don't like this method, you don't have to use it. If you like showing your work, you can keep showing your work, but this is just a little shorter way of doing it. You'll get the same answer both ways. For example, this one too, for this one you would have to be careful. Why? Because you're squaring your first term, right, minus you're squaring your second term. 3x squared is not 3x squared. It's actually 9x squared, remember, because you have to distribute your square to both terms on the inside. So you have 9x squared minus 1 is going to be your simplified binomial. Once again, if you do this, if you like foiling, you get the same exact answer. This is just a shorter method of doing this. Okay, so why don't you guys try these next 3 on your own. The next shortcut we're going to talk about is the square of a binomial pattern. So what you'll notice here is if I have a plus b squared, another way of writing this is like if I have a plus b and I have a plus b, right? I have 2a plus b. So a shorter way of writing this is a plus b quantity squared. Second would be a minus b, right? This 2 means I have 2 of them. Okay, so it's similar to the first one. You do a squared, so you square your first term, and then you square your second term as well. So I have b squared, and then but the only different thing is you do 2 times your first terms and your second term. All right, so here's an example of what that'll look like. So if I have x plus 3, you square your first term, right? That's x squared. You square your last term, that's 9, and then you do 2, right? It's 2ab. My a is x, right? It's my 1x. You have 2 times x times b is 3. You get 6x to be your middle term, and it's going to be all pluses. If it's minus, the only thing that's different is you add a subtraction sign in the second term. Your last term is always going to be positive. Why? Because you're really taking negative 3 squared, and it'll always be positive. Okay, so for example, if I have this, I'll show you both ways. I'll use a shortcut and I'll also show you how to FOIL this out as well. So if I were to use example, you square the first term, you get y squared, right? And you square the last term, which is 1, right? 1 squared is just 1, and you have 2ab. Here's your a, here's your b, plus 2y times 1, right? Or just 2y. So you have y squared plus 2y plus 1. That's one way to do it. If you're like, I'm completely lost on this, I don't know what you're doing, Mr. Kim, then remember, if I have y plus 1 squared, that means y plus 1 times y plus 1. right? So from here, I can FOIL it. So FOIL of y squared outer plus 1y, inner plus 1y, plus last, 1 times 1 is 1, I have y squared plus 2y plus 1. You notice how we get the same exact answer both ways. If you don't like the shortcut method, you don't have to use it. That's what this lesson is all about, using shortcuts, okay? If I were another example here, here's my a term, my b term, remember it's a squared minus 2ab plus b squared for the shortcut. So you have a squared, which is 2z squared, minus 2 times 2z times negative 3, whoops, just 3, plus negative 3 squared. So this would be 4z squared minus 2 times 2 is 4 times 3 is 12, 12z plus 9. Minus 12z plus 9. So if you don't like this method, don't use it. Okay, I don't want to throw something at you that you are not comfortable with. I will never have you solve or simplify these binomials one way or the other. This is just a shorter way for you to use if you do like this method better. Okay, so why don't you guys try it on your own? I would challenge you to try using the shortcut method for at least 2 of them so that you know what it is. You know how to use it, and then if you don't like it still, just use FOIL. It's extra practice or foiling anyways. Alright, last example, we are going to do each of the 2 dogs has one black gene, capital B, one white gene, capital W. The diagram shows a possible gene combination of an offspring and the resulting colors. What percent of the possible gene combination result in black? Well, how many total possibilities are there? There's 1, 2, 3, 4 possibilities. And how many of them are going to result with a black gene? Dog is just 1 because it's gray, gray, white. So it's 1 out of 4. What's the percentage? You should know this. It is 25%. Okay. Part B, the genetic makeup of an offspring can be modeled by 0.5b plus 0.5w, all of it squared. Use the square of a binomial pattern to model the possible gene combinations of an offspring. So why don't you guys try this out? So 0.5b plus 0.5w squared. This is your a, b term. If it helps you, write it out. 2ab plus b squared is going to be 0.5b squared plus 2 times 0.5b, 0.5w plus 0.5w squared. Okay, so take a look at what I did. I did a is 0.5b, b is 0.5w, and I'm multiplying all of these out. All I did here, I put in these values. Here is 0.5, here is 0.5b and w, and I'm squaring those out. So when you do square them, you get 0.25b squared plus 0.5bw, because these just you multiply, and you multiply out your first terms together, plus 0.25w squared as your simplified expression. Okay, so why don't you guys fill out your level of understanding after this lesson, see how you guys feel. If you like the shortcuts, you can use them, but you're not going to be forced to use them at all. Let me know if you guys have any questions.